Hello, this is Michel Leviathan Sarbet and you are watching a new episode of Wojennik TV. The American Revolution is without any doubt one of the topics which very often is the subject of war games. And one of the oldest and most prestigious wargaming series which enables us to recreate battles from this period is the Battles of the American Revolution series by GMT Games. We had several games published in this series and today I would like to show you one of those games. I would like to open the box of Pensacola. Pensacola is the sixth installment in this series, published in 2010 by GMT Games. The authors of this game are Mark Miklos and Don Heinle. The game is for two players. One of them will control the British, defending the fort of Pensacola, and the second player will control the Spanish forces with a small French regiment alongside, which will try to capture this fort. This was a battle fought during the American Civil War and during the American Revolution. And it ended with a Spanish-French victory, and it enabled the Spanish to take control of western Florida. So today an unboxing of this game, and would like to show you how the components of this game look like, and at the end I would like to give you my first impressions. Let's begin. Here is the box of Pensacola, the sixth installment in the Battles of the American Revolution series. A very interesting box cover with some Spanish troops launching a desperate attack, maybe the final assault against Pensacola, some ships of the line on the back of the picture, and also some Cuban troops which were part of the Spanish army at the time of the battle. The information that the game was published by GMT Games in 2010 and the designers Mark Miklos and Don Hanley. On the back side of the box we can take a look at all the other games which were published in this series in 2010. Since then new games were published, so this is not the complete list of them. Here we have Saratoga, Brandywine, Guilford, Savannah, Monmouth and Germantown, but we have also some new ones which were published from 2010 up until now. We have also the description of the battle which tells us how the final assault looked like. We can take a look at the map which is inside. We can also take a look at the counters and also take a look at the scale of the game. The units in this game will be representing battalions and regiments. The time scale will be in the tactical aspect 1 hour per turn, in the strategic aspect 2 days per turn. The map will, each hex will represent around 200 yards and the game is for 2 players. We have also the game meter which is always added to all the GMT Games titles, and we have the complexity meter which is rated at a 6 level, and the solitaire suitability is low. It is rated at 2, so it is not a game, it is not a series which is well suited for solitaire play. Well, the reason is simple: we get tactical cards which are inside, so it is quite problematic to resolve battles, but it is of course possible. Inside of this box we get first of all the paper sheet which is always added by GMT Games, and I see that my copy of this game was assembled by Rachel. Thank you a lot, Rachel. It is always nice to receive such a piece of paper with such a handwritten information. We get some plastic bags in which we'll be able to store the elements, 2 dice. As you can see, a red one and a blue one, and what is interesting is that the red die has a 10 whereas the blue die has a 0. I do not know if this is a difference between them, but this is a difference that I am seeing right now. So those are 2 10-sided dice, of course, so they will be used during the game. We get two types of cards in Pensacola. First of all, the event deck with the back side of the cards, as you can see, with the same picture as on the box cover, and those will be the events which will happen during the game. Some of them have information which tells us that those events will be played only during certain types of turns, for instance during siege game turns. Others do not have this description. For instance, this one, each card has its own number, and we get 55 cards, each of them with a title, with also some instruction, with some events described. So those will be the different events which will influence the game. French Elan, Siege Artillery Bonus, Ransom, Superior British Indian Policy, etc., etc. So a lot of events. Those will be the things which will add further chrome to the game, which will also permit us to recreate some historical events which took place during the battle, before, after the battle, and which will, in a certain way, help us to also recreate the strategic events or simulate the strategical situation in both the Battle of Pensacola and the entire war. The second type of cards are the tactical cards, the tactics cards, and as you can see, two sets of them. One will be used by the Spanish-French player, the second one by the British, and those are the orders, the tactics which can be used during battles. So those cards, those tactics will be chosen each time during a battle, and the different type of tactics will influence the outcome of the battle, because we will be comparing the two tactics chosen by the two sides. So this is the reason why this game is not very well suitable for solitaire play, because those cards will be, of course, chosen in such a way that your opponent do not knows what card you chose up until the resolution. So it is absolutely possible to pick them blindly, but it will spoil some of the tactical pleasure of playing this game and all the games in the Battles of the American Revolution series. Now, we get two documents in this game, and here I see that the first one is the exclusive rule book, because this game, as I said a few times, was published in a whole series. So each game will have a certain set of core rules and exclusive rules which will explain how this battle will be played differently from the others. And here we have several pages of additional rules which will govern the Battle of Pensacola. As I can see, they occupy 13 pages, and on page 14 we get the two scenarios, the historical assault scenario and the siege only scenario, and also a historical summary which will be a description of the battle and which will help us to better understand the strategical situation, the choices made by the commanders, and also the consequences of this battle. At the end we get also the orders of a battle, and we get also the counters manifest, so we can take a look at this counter sheet if we get any problems while, for instance, searching for a counter. And at the end of this exclusive rulebook we get also the sequence of play in two versions, the siege turn sequence and the coup de main turn sequence. The game will be played on a paper map, and here it is, March, May 1781, Pensacola. The map is very colorful. It represents both the Pensacola fort as its surroundings, the Pensacola Bay also, some additional forts defending the final Fort Pensacola. So we get, for instance, Fort George, Prince of Wales Redoubt, Queen's Anne's Redoubt. We get also some additional terrain features, a lot of a lot of scrub, a lot of heavy woods or light woods. We get also a dedicated box in which we have the Red Cliffs Fort and also a small space for Santa Rosa Island. On this map we get also some tracks which will be used in order to track time, in order to track the number of victory points or the level of morale, because in this series we will be tracking morale, which will be the most important factor. We get also some boxes for captured and eliminated units. Very nice map. I really like its aesthetics, very colorful but very elegant at the same time. It's very easy to see what type of terrain is on each hex, because those terrain features occupy one hex only, so it is very easy to distinguish them, and that's always a nice thing. Now on this map we will be using, of course, counters, and we get one counter sheet in Pensacola, so not a lot of those counters when compared to other war games, and we get some Spanish troops, as you can see, also the Havana troops, which I mentioned earlier, the New Orleans troops, which will be the French forces, as I believe, or maybe the Spanish forces raised in New Orleans. We get also the French troops, the British troops are here. Some additional counters which will be used, for instance, to indicate breaches in the British defense, the destroyed road, destroyed stockade. We get also some additional counters for earlier games. For instance, we get 2 counters for Brandywine, some additional ones for Savannah and for Guilford. So in fact you get one counter sheet, but not all of those counters will be used for Pensacola. As you can see, this will not be a counter heavy game. Those counters are of course double-sided. I see that they are well centered, not any issue when it comes to the way that the information on them had been printed. So they are also very colorful with not a lot of parameters on them. This will look very nice on the game map indeed. Additional elements include a player aid for both players. This is a 4 pages player aid. As you can see, a lot of tables which will govern, for instance, the tactical matrix, the close combat, mortar fire, artillery range, etc. So a lot of information with a huge list of additional counters used, for instance, for close combat. A second player aid will include the sequence of play, which is printed also on the last page of the exclusive rulebook. We get also an additional table, the fortified hexes and hexside matrix, which will also be used, and look at the number of additional explanation, really a lot of them. And finally the rulebook. This will be the series rulebook, which will describe the rules, which will help us to play each game in the American Revolution series. This rulebook is only 12 pages long with the description of the basic concepts of the system, but as I said earlier, those rules will be further expanded by the exclusive rules in the second document. And this is it when it comes to the components in the box of Pensacola. Let's pass to a short conclusion. Pensacola is not the first game published in the American Revolution series that I will have the pleasure to play. I had already the opportunity to try Saratoga and Germantown, and I remember that I had fun playing those 2 games. So this system is not very complicated, but at the same time it enables you to include a lot of chrome, a lot of details into the games. What I really like in Pensacola is also the interesting strategical situation recreated, because here you have not only a pitched battle, but something like a siege. And I always take a closer look at games which cover sieges. It's something which really interests me. Pensacola was an interesting battle, and I believe that also the game will be an interesting one. The standard of the quality or what we receive in the box of this game is really high, because as in most GMT Games titles, you really know what to expect: high quality components. I believe that the game will be interesting. I will be showing you it during a future review. Up until then, I hope that you will also take a closer look at our other videos. We have some unboxings, we have also some additional reviews on our channel. Take also a look at our Facebook and Instagram accounts. Have a fantastic day and see you next time.